What's going on, guys? Your boy LQ, Mr. Real Deal Fantasy HQ, and welcome to the RotoBaller Fantasy Sports YouTube channel. Please make sure you guys like and subscribe. And today I got my Week 6 start and sit 'em across all positions. Wide receiver, tight end, quarterback, running back. I got you covered here. I'm going to try to hit one player for each position, start and sit, because if I was to go through 5 players for each, I'll probably be here for about 30 minutes. So let's not do that today. So what's more importantly is to leave a comment after the video or during the video, whatever, your start and sit questions, and I'll try to answer them all the way up to game time. So I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get right into the episode. First up at the running back position, I got Raheem Mostert as a start this week against the Carolina Panthers. This is such a great matchup for Mostert, going up against a defense that's allowing the second most fantasy points per game to running backs. And listen, even with Devon Achane a little banged up right now, I think he'll be okay. But even with or without Achane, I'm having Mostert in my starting lineups just based on how good this Dolphin offense is. They're going to keep creating scoring opportunities. Even since the emergence of Achane, he's been set in stone as the goal line back for Raheem Mostert. Even since he's even had the 1A position at the start of the season, the red zone and goal line duty belongs to Raheem Mostert. So if they're going to keep creating scoring opportunities, Mostert's going to continue staying in my starting lineups. Next up, let's stay in the same game, the other side of the ball. Miles Sanders is a sit for me this week. I think I'm pretty much done with having him in my starting lineups as a flex or RB3 because every single week his production just has been going down and decreasing as the weeks go on, from touches, his ability to get open, the target share. It's just not looking good. The routes ran, it's all down every single week. I don't know if it's this groin injury that's bothering, but I'm done. And it looks like Chuba Herbert's on his heels to gaining a larger role in this offense as well. And I don't know if you saw it last week, but Laviska Shenault had 5 carries out of the backfield, which is a little weird because Sanders had 7 and Chuba Herbert led them with 9. So therefore, I'm not too sure what's going on over there in Carolina. He's a clear sit for me this week. And again, if you have any other questions at running backs, you might as well leave them in the comment below, and I'll answer your start and sit questions all week. But Miles Sanders is getting the bench, and I do not want any parts of him against this Miami defense because Sanders just has not been productive since week 2. So moving on to the next. Now to get into some wide receivers that I think you should start, and one wide receiver I think you should sit. And Drake London going against this Commanders defense seems like a smash play. And I think Desmond Ridder can gain some momentum from last week, throwing for his first 300-yard game, getting Drake London heavily involved, the 75-plus yards. And I think this could be an opportunity for them to expose and take advantage of this Commanders secondary that's just been lacking. Now you look at this Commanders defense, they're allowing the most yards and fantasy points per game to wide receivers. So I think this could be a smash for Drake London to find the end zone and put some decent points on the board that we all know he can do, because we know this system is based on run first. But I think they're going to keep on letting Desmond Ridder throw while they're home, because we know Desmond Ridder, he's undefeated at home and he plays a lot better when they're home. So I think this would be a great play this week going up against the Commanders. Now, next up, I got Marquise Brown going against the Rams as a sit this week because this Rams defense has just gotten better and better every single week, and they've been really stingy against wide receivers. Now, Marquise Brown, he's had a solid start to the season, but man, if the Rams are going to be playing this type of defense, and they've always played the Cardinals hard, they're going to be harassing Joshua Dobbs. I'm not too sure Joshua Dobbs is going to be able to complete these passes to his pass catchers to guys like Marquise Brown. And I really feel as though this Rams defense has gotten better. They have had a sack. They have had a takeaway in the last 3 games. But most importantly, since week 2, they're first in opponent completion percentage allowed. So it looks like they're going to be harassing Joshua Dobbs and not giving him the easy layups to get the ball to Marquise Brown. And also worth mentioning, the Rams defense only allowed 1 touchdown to a wide receiver this entire season so far. So I definitely like the odds of Marquise Brown putting up a dud or probably less than 10 points versus this Rams defense, who've been playing with their head on fire. Every hat to the ball is what I've seen, and they've kept opponents kind of in check when it comes to scoring as well. So I think this will be a hard task for Marquise Brown to come out this week as a solid wide receiver in starting lineups. Now we're shifting over to the tight ends, and I got Dallas Goedert as a start this week going against this Jets defense. He's falling into another great matchup. The Rams last week, they were allowing the second most fantasy points per game to tight ends. Now this week, he got the Jets, who are allowing the most fantasy points per game to tight ends and the most touchdowns to tight ends this season. Dallas Goedert put up 117 receiving yards last week against the Rams. I think he could be a focal point of this offense as well. It might be Dallas Goedert week again, because if we're looking at this Jets defense, they allowed 4 different tight ends to have over 10 fantasy points in the last couple of weeks, and that doesn't include Travis Kelce in that mix either. So I really feel as though the opportunity for Dallas Goedert to find the end zone and score a lot of fantasy points and get some catches and yards, and we can have another Dallas Goedert top 5, top 3 tight end finish this week. So he's a smash into starting lineups. Next up, I'm sitting Evan Ingram versus the Colts. I don't like this matchup whatsoever for Evan Ingram, because in the last 3 games that he has faced the Colts, didn't really have any much fantasy relevance. He had less than 50 receiving yards. The target share was kind of up and down in these meetings. In week 1, he had an abnormal 15% target share. So I hate this matchup for Evan Ingram. I would look for other areas to pivot, because this Colts team and Jags team always play each other tough, and it doesn't look like Evan Ingram will be that much in the mix or that much of a factor to have him in starting lineups. I will look for other opportunities at streaming or other opportunities that you have on the bench at tight end. This just does not seem like a great matchup, even though Evan Ingram has been great for fantasy the last couple of weeks. A healthy target share, finding the end zone, and having a lot of touches. I really like Evan Ingram, just not this week. That's what I'm getting at, just not this week. We will pivot to other options other than Evan Ingram, because listen, this Colts defense are averaging less than 6 fantasy points per game to tight ends. So that is even much of a more statement of why he's moving towards and trending down to my bench this week. Next up, let's move on to some quarterbacks. And listen, I'm a Rams fan, but I'm going to try not to be biased, but I'm starting Matthew Stafford against this Cardinals defense, who are allowing the 4th most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. And you got Cooper Kupp back in the mix. You got Puka Nacua still maintaining his stardom. I definitely like these 2 guys back in starting lineups to give the trending up for Matthew Stafford to put up some good, decent fantasy points per game. Because you're looking at Matthew Stafford, he's top 5 in passing yards per game. I look at this Cardinals defense, they're still trying to figure some things out. They're allowing 27 points per game as well. So the opportunity for Matthew Stafford to score some points this weekend are high. And he threw his first 2 touchdowns of the season. Obviously, Cooper Kupp back in the starting lineups helps Matthew Stafford move the ball down and create more scoring opportunities. So if you're streaming quarterbacks this week, or you're not happy with your quarterback matchup this week, Matthew Stafford has a solid matchup against the Cardinals this week. Next up, we're moving to the sit, and it's Jared Goff on the road this week going against the Bucs. Listen, we know Jared Goff on the road isn't the best fantasy option. Right now, he hasn't topped over 14 fantasy points on the road, and I really feel as though his TD to interception ratio 2-to-1 right now is kind of nasty for me to trust him in starting lineups. This Bucs defense, it can get ugly fairly quickly. They're 5th in takeaways. They're tied 8th in the fewest points per game allowed. This defense is playing like they've been playing the last couple of years. The Bucs defense have always been scary to me. I think Jared Goff in starting lineups could hurt you rather than help you in this situation. So I would look for other quarterback options, even though, again, Jared Goff has looked great, but at home. We all know that. That's the problem with Jared Goff on the road. He doesn't do as good as he should do on the road when he's at home. So it doesn't make sense, but Jared Goff is not in my starting lineups this week against a Bucs defense that scares the hell out. So that's all I got for you. This wraps up another great episode of RotoBaller Fantasy Sports YouTube channel. Please make sure you guys like and subscribe. And please, I cannot beg you enough to leave your comments below of your start and sit questions, and I'll try to get to every single one of them up till game time, because I know I wasn't able to cover majority of you guys' players, because again, I would have been here for 35 minutes talking about 5 players for each position. So we're not going to do that today. So you guys can follow me at Real Deal Fantasy on all social media platforms. Until next time.